Yeah.
The
It's too much
vocal,
for it.
they're just too powerful.
Uh-huh. That's right.
All
Well,
right. Well,
thanks.
let's kick it off.
Good.
Let's kick it off. I want to get your thoughts on something that I just heard this morning.
Wait.
And I'm-
You gotta first tell us where you heard it, because I always have like a guess in the back of my mind of where you might have heard things. Where did you hear this one?
I don't, dude. If I rotate so rapidly between TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, I really couldn't tell you. So let's just say it. Let's say it's an Instagram reel.
Okay.
And then it was George Clooney talking, which was weird, talking on addiction. Actually, don't hold me to that. I don't.
Might have not been George Clooney. I think it was actually Seth Rogen or
Robert
Seth
Downey
Myers.
Jr. Who knows? But anyway, what they said was you can break addiction down into 3 parts. First part is it's fun. The second part is that it's fun with problems. And then the third part, it's problems. And I started thinking through that and how I normally say things to parents when parents say, hey, does my son or daughter, do they have a problem? Or are they just doing teenager things? My go-to used to be, well, is their life unmanageable? Like unmanageability is my key word there. And if you would call their life unmanageable, I would say it's a problem, whether it's with, is their school unmanageable, they're failing out, are their family relationships unmanageable and they're pulling away from everyone in the family? Are there like romantic relationships unmanageable and those are falling apart? So look across their life or their jobs. Is it crumbling? Are things unmanageable? If it's yes, you have a problem. But now I like this version even better, I think, of where are they in the process? Are they having fun and it's not causing any problems? Are they having fun with some problems? Or are they having just problems and it's not even fun anymore?
Okay. Yeah. I feel like I might have seen this too, and I don't remember what celebrity it was. But I think I saw that as well.
I saw it too. I'm pretty sure it was Carrot Top.
Listen,
No,
no way.
I swore it was Carrot.
No, that wasn't it, Lucas.
I'm gonna look it up.
I thought it was Carrot Top. It was either Carrot Top or it was Beetlejuice from the Howard Stern show.
Beetlejuice?
You don't know him?
No, I don't. This is we're not thinking of the same thing. Because I feel like it was an actor. Or David will find it. What I will say while he's looking that up, I love the kind of like overarching simplicity of that, as opposed to like it being super technical or a lot of like psychobabble. It just has in very layman's terms of like, the progression of substance abuse. I do like the simplicity of that. But it's pretty overarching, so you can get into like very different definitions of like what are the problems, because we see that a lot with the parents are like, hey, this is a problem, and the guys or like our client is saying this is not a problem. So it's pretty interesting in that middle stage. Oh boy, there we go. Oh, okay, there we go.
That's Beetlejuice.
I do know this guy.
Yeah, everyone knows him.
Dave, is that who it was that said it?
No, so I did find who it was. Was not George Clooney.
Was it Dennis Quaid?
It was Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid, that's it. That's who it was. Yes.
Kmart, George Clooney.
Well, this is the second George Clooney reference in as many weeks from David.
Mhm.
Isn't that who he said he wanted to play him in the movie? George Clooney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
George Clooney on the mind.
He said they're fun, and then they're fun with problems, and then they're just problems after a while. That was his quote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you look at people who use or drink normally? Would you look at them and say that they are still just enjoying a fun phase. Like it's just not causing them, it's not never gets to fun with problems where they're neglecting their job or their kids' softball practice.
I think it's got to be fun with problems for anyone. I think it's fun with problems no matter what.
What?
I think
Really?
I don't think it's ever just fun. It's just like, what's the severity of the problems? I think is probably the difference between like the average regular drinker or user and the person with a problem. But I mean, if you think about it, it's like, yeah, it's problems. It's calories, it's extra money, it's being hungover. But for a lot of people, that's like pretty normal and they can make their life work around it. It's not, you know, and then for the person with a problem, it's like missing your kid's soccer practice, you know, not showing up to work, like bigger, like real impactful problems.
So you're looking at it more from like a health perspective.
I think that's just one angle of the problems, but it's a financial perspective, like how much money per month do you spend on alcohol if you drink? And again, some people say that's worth it for me. I probably spend about $200 a month on drinks, and it's how I have fun and go out on the weekend, and it's fun for me, and it's like good for them. But someone else could say, you know, well, like that's a financial problem, and that's extra money that could be saved or whatever. You could do that with anything. My point is just that I think there's always problems attached to it. It's the severity of the problems.
Yeah.
And then if there's like no fun with it anymore and it's just those severe problems, that's obviously a whole nother realm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't agree though, because I do think sometimes it is just fun. Like I think the word problem, like, is a very subjective thing. Like, what are we calling a problem? You know, like it is. If you just, you know, if you go out and you like have drinks with your friend, and you have a good time, and you have a few beers, and then you go home and go to sleep, and you don't physically feel any different than you would have like without it, or even if you do, you like have thought it through and you can sleep in. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think it becomes very subjective of what you define as like a problem. You're like, oh, you took more calories in. Well, you could do that when you go out to eat. You know, if you're looking at it from a standpoint.
You could do it with sweet tea and argue that the sweet tea costs more than the water.
Yeah.
That's it for all of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're looking at problems as like, oh, well, I didn't go to work. I mean, some people just call out of work and it's nothing to do with alcohol, even though they're not sick or don't have any issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, and that's a function of depression or just not liking your job or being kind of lazy or, you know, whatever.
How would y'all define the problems though? Like,
Yeah.
that example, how would I'm interested how each of us would define problems. Which that's what I kind of like about this. Like it's simplistic, but it also is pretty overarching and like very subjective.
I feel like it just kind of, for it to fit, it needs to be for someone who has an issue with drugs or drinking. And that's the arc is at first it's fun, not really any problems. Then it's fun and there are problems, or what I would use a better word to me of consequences. And then the third stage is it's just consequences and the fun part has been lost.
Yeah,
like to transpose that over someone who doesn't have an issue with it kind of makes it then not fit as well or be as apt.
I think of it too, like the benefits, like if we're looking at it like a balance, like the benefits outweigh the consequences until the consequences / problems outweigh the benefits. Because I mean, you can say the same thing, like, oh, I'm just going to go to the pool with my kids. Are there consequences to that? Yes, getting exposed to the sun, might get skin cancer, right? There's a risk that like driving there, we could get in a car accident. There is a chance, like, you know, something terrible could happen in the pool. Somebody doesn't, you know, drowns or something. There are potential consequences, but I also play it out on like the benefits of like my kids playing at the pool and me enjoying time with them. That outweighs the consequences or potential consequences. So it's an activity I deem worth doing, you know? And so it's windows like consequences, like outweigh the benefits of like, I went out with my friend and got hammered and went home and like missed my, you know, work the next day or whatever. And I don't even remember the good time I had with my friend. then I think we're way more like and there are way more consequences to the benefit of it. So I'm gonna think of it as like this like scale going back and forth.
A seesaw.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
what do you think, Dave?
I look at it the same way, and I almost take problems back to the word unmanageability. Like, are the problems making things unmanageable for you? And now you go out in the sun every single day with no sunscreen and totally exposed. Like, that's unmanageability, and that's going to cause bigger problems of skin cancer one day. But is it a problem just for that one day and you're enjoying the time and the water with your kids? And I don't know.
I got another one for y'all. Another celebrity. God, what was it?
Before we move on, I wanted to touch on the last part of that and see if Lucas agrees specifically with, and then it turns into just problems. And would you say the end of your addiction, like before you got sober, was it just problems? Or were you still experiencing any type of fun, relief?
It was probably in and out. I mean, to say that there was no fun, I don't think would be fair. To say that there weren't it's I feel like it was a mix up and down, and that if it's a scale, if it's a seesaw, I feel like it was always kind of moving. Sometimes it'd be like huge consequences, and then obviously I'm not having as much fun because of the consequences. And then other times I'd get like a 1 or 2 month period where I'm kind of using or drinking, and there's not really any consequences. No one's on my back, no legal trouble. I can kind of use or drink exactly the way I want without anyone giving me grief for it. And yeah, I mean, that was when it would be more like fun. And I'm just kind of enjoying it without like the burdens of the consequences attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I tried just about any drug, minus salvia, that shit was awful. Worst thing I ever did in my life was salvia. But outside of that, any other drug that I tried, any drink, I would say the fun was at 100% that first time. And as I like went through life, years stacked on, I'm still using drugs, I'm still drinking. And before I get sober, that 100% was slowly trickling downward, and the problems were picking up to where they were getting to where they were in the 90th, 95th percentile, and fun was down here at 5%. Maybe every once in a while I'd get a glimpse of like some relief or a fun feeling from the drugs, from the experience of the high. But outside of that, it was mostly like depression, anxiety, drug-induced psychosis. I went through that a couple of times. It was mostly like dark, and I needed to find a way out.
Yeah, I think it's just different for different people, because I've heard a lot of people's stories that's very similar to yours, David, where it's like maybe a little bit more like linear, especially like towards the end. And it's kind of like staying proportionate of like consequences are going up, fun is going down. But then when you like mix in bouts of sobriety in there, then like, okay, I stayed sober for 4 months, saved up enough money to where when I went back out, I could kind of do it with less consequences, and then do that for a while, and the consequences get worse. Then there's an intervention and I go get sober again. So like sometimes I feel like it's more up and down over a however long you're kind of coming in and out of recovery and then back into addiction. Because whenever I would start back, I would kind of reset to a degree. I know people say like, oh, you pick up right where you left off. But I found that like I'd go back, and the first night I would really just drink 1 or 2 beers. And it would go so well that the next night I drink 1 or 2 beers. And then the next night it's like, well, maybe I could smoke a little pot too. And so it would escalate faster, I feel like, every time. But I could kind of start back at like a bottom where it was like somewhat fun, whatever. I don't
Or
know.
not a bottom, but maybe just a slower pace, like where you're not coming out of the gate like a horse at Keeneland. You're starting out with just a beer or two, and it's a slow progression. It could take you 4 or 5 months to get back to a place where you see it as a major problem again.
Yeah. It was normally like 90 days. If I got sober, I was like stopped from using or drinking and forced to get sober. Normally within 90 days, of like going back to using or drinking, it would get back to like a really rough spot with serious consequences back on my back. And
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece to touch on because you hear it so often in the recovery community of like, it's almost like a scared straight thing of like, oh, if you go back out and use, you're going to die. You're going to be right back at it the next day. You're going to go to the wall with everything. And it just doesn't have to happen like that.
yeah,
Did you find the length of time shortened from like to get to a rough spot? Like, was it always like around 90 days, or like over time you would get there quicker and quicker to the rough spot?
no, mine was usually, I mean, it was like freakish how it would almost always be right around 90 days that it would just,
Very predictable.
yeah, that's by about 90 days is when I'd be back into like some type of heavier use, like
Mhm.
back to opiates, back to IV use. So then like worse behaviors attached to it of like stealing, lying, manipulating, versus the beginning where it's like I'm just drinking a couple beers. I'm like, I'm doing everything legally. I'm not stealing for it. I'm paying for it myself. I'm kind of more within like the societal norms, and therefore like don't have as many problems or consequences.
Mhm.
But I just keep pushing, pushing, pushing slowly, and I think like insidiously. And then all of a sudden I'm back with like, a needle in my arm shooting heroin, not knowing like how the hell did it get back here? And it
Mhm.
was one little baby step at a time over the course of about 90 days.
Mhm. I think that repeated pattern is like so important though. When somebody finally like hopefully gets it, like the signs of unmanageability, to like to be able to see, man, I've done this so many times, this cycle so many times, is really important for somebody to finally make that decision to shift. I think that's has been so hard about like fentanyl, is just rob people that cycle. You do see like those horror stories come true of like, hey, if you go back out, you'll die. And the reality is that's happened for um, a lot of people that we know like really well. I'm like, oh, like you just didn't get a chance to learn from that relapse, and that's like the super sad part of it. Because like, I mean, for you particular, Lucas, like, I mean, it's like you have to see the facts to believe in something. You know what I mean? And like see the evidence. And so I think you needed, unfortunately, painful as it was, you needed that like 90-day cycle happening several times to find like, okay, I'm convinced, like I'm ready to like get off this, you know.
Well, and I still didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like at some point I was like, man, there's like a 90-day cycle, and I've done this probably about 3 times a year for 10 years, so about 30 of these cycles, and now I can really see it and I'm going to do something different. No, it was just like the next time I kind of got forced by consequences into a treatment episode, and then just stayed sober long enough that then I could kind of, I don't know, be more introspective at that point. But I feel like you have to be kind of solidly removed from the substances and the relapse and the 90-day cycle to get to more like probably 5 or 6 months sober was where I got more reasonable, and then could look backwards and be like, oh, this is like such a pattern. And every time I think it's going to be different because this time I'm only going to drink and I'm not going to break my own rules and it's all going to work out. But every time it was the same thing. I mean, it's got to be insane looking from the outside in of just like, this is so predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think David, you had showed us this video, like talking about the Dennis Quaid video. This one was Joe Walsh, who's the guitarist for the Eagles, that you shared with us a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been in recovery for a while, but it's like a maybe 90-second clip, and he's talking about his perspective on like addiction and recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Described it as like it starts off and you have problems from alcohol and drugs, like you have a problem. And then he said at some point, you were using it because it was working for you, the drinking, the pot, whatever. it was working for you. And then somewhere along the line, you started working for it, which I think is like such a really eloquent way of saying, you know, what we were saying earlier too, like kind of 3 different phases. Like when you get in that last one, it's just problems. Like you are now working for it. Like you have to go get drunk or you have to like smoke. That's preoccupying your time. And I thought that was really well said by him in that video.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like breaking that down very literally, I mean, it's your whole days. Like when you're really in it,
Yeah.
if you wake up in the morning and your first thought is like, okay, where am I going to get my substance to get me high or really to like heal me is more of the mindset. Like, where am I going to get the money to get the thing? Or where am I going to get the thing? Or what am I going to get to fix me for the day? And then it goes to where am I going to get the money to get the thing to fix me for the day? And then your whole day can fill up with like, and then I got to find the right drug dealer and meet him at the right time, at the right place. Oh, I'm $5 short. Maybe he'll just front me that much this time. I mean, it was just like every day of every week was just filled with, I mean, anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and a rat race to figure out how am I going to get it done.
Mm-hmm. I think what's harder though is the sneakier working for it. And I see that with, several clients that I know that are more in that like middle pattern where they're having fun, but also problems. And they're not even aware of how much they're working for it. The amount of like preoccupation, very like subconscious, like I cannot wait to get off and go to happy hour. I cannot wait to get off and like, smoke a bowl tonight or whatever. And it's just like, it is like the thing that their whole day is built around. It becomes the only highlight of the day, which is the really interesting part of it. It's like, it becomes like a normal way of like winding down typically. And then it's like, no, this is like the best part of my day. And then it started to lose this luster. And like, I'm thinking of clients and even friends that I have who have said that, it loses this luster and it's no longer like even enjoyable. I just do it because like I have to do it.
Yeah.
But that's like the sneaky part of it. Like you're doing all these other things, like being a parent or working. So you're like, well, I'm not running around town looking for drug dealers and stuff. But if you were only like truly connected in a moment, when you're actively using, like you're missing so much of life. So you still are working for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's what I'm saying. There's such a fine line with like what you consider a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've known people that are kind of starting down that path where it's making consequences for their life, but it's not like life altering or life changing or anything bad enough that they're going to lose their job or lose their family. I feel like from the outside looking in, they're just like not getting as much out of life as they could be otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's almost like 3 categories where there's like the normal like drinker user, then there's that weird kind of gray area where it's like you don't really want to label like alcoholic addict or anything like that, but there definitely are problems. And then the third one being like, without question, anyone could look at it and say that person has a problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's another quote I like. I forget who said it, but there's a statue attached with the quote somewhere. I want to say like Vancouver or something, but it says, first the man takes the drink, then the drink takes the man.
Mm-hmm.
I always like that one too.
Yeah.
Again, not that that's for everybody, but for people who end up with a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And all of these phrases that we're mentioning, as well as that Joe Walsh video, it's like stripping it down to bare bones. Like it makes it very easy to just grasp and understand. And I like that.
I think it might be helpful to look at it from a clinical standpoint when we're assessing and diagnosing somebody with like a substance abuse problem. I mean, there's several criteria. There's like 12 different criteria that we're looking at. And obviously we're having to go off like the patient's report and the family or loved ones, if we get it, to kind of get the full picture, the best of our ability. But we're looking at it from a lot of different angles. And I could pull the list up and run through it. It's really interesting when you like think about all the different areas to it. Might be a good thing for people to hear on here.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
I'll grab it. But that's just an interesting part of it. you say like, what are problems? I mean, this does like start to break that down a little bit. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
The DSM-5. Really riveting stuff.
Oh yeah.
Reading from the DSM-5.
No,
I
he's
think
grabbing the packet. It's like the intake packet.
This is actually a pretty it's always been a pretty insightful thing to done with clients over the years when they're really not sure or having a really hard time seeing the problems that have landed them on this couch. And
I love it. It's like one of my favorite things that you do.
thanks, Lucas. But we just sit down and like break it down. And I've been really surprised like how honest people can be when you actually are just looking at it in black and white. Again, it takes it away from some of this stuff of like, oh, my mom said this, or oh, my girlfriend was just like freaking out about that, whatever. It gets out of some of the drama of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'll run through these. So there's 11 different criteria or symptoms. And so when you get down to the end, based on how many symptoms the person says yes to, then you can categorize it as a substance use issue, mild, moderate, or severe. So, and you're also looking at over the past year. So you're thinking about like the past year of your life. So the first one is that the substance, and I'm just going to use the word substance, that's going to cover like alcohol, kratom, heroin, you name it, just substance. So the substance is taken over in larger amounts or over a longer period than was intended. So are you taking more or for a longer amount of time, drinking longer than you originally intended? So that's the first one. The second one is there's a persistent desire or unsuccessful efforts to cut down or control substance use. That's always like kind of funny with some of the guys that I work with. They're like, I never wanted to control it. I had no intention of stopping. So I'm saying no to that one. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I never want to stop at all. I don't want to control this. I'm like, okay.
That's what I said.
Then they say yes to the next one. A great deal of time is spent in activities necessary to obtain substance, use substance, or recover from its effects. And that's what you were talking about, David. Like it gets to that point where all day is like trying to get your hands on it, to buy it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's only one of 11 different symptoms we're looking at here. Number 4 is a craving. And sometimes you have to define for people what a craving is. And we're talking about just not like a physical, but also a psychological, like I cannot wait to like have a beer after work. So a craving or a strong desire to use the substance. So like I really like want to go drink right now.
Yeah.
So that's number 4. Number 5, recurrent substance use results in a failure to fulfill major role obligations at work, school, or home. That typically is pretty easy for the ones that end up on this couch because usually something that's happened, like my wife says I'm not showing up well in my marriage, or like I got kicked out of school last semester, I'm on academic probation. Like those are usually pretty like easy to identify. Number 6 is continued substance use despite having persistent or recurrent social/interpersonal problems, which are caused by or exacerbated by the effects of the substance. Very wordy, but essentially what that's saying is like, are you having problems in your social network? Are you having problems in your relationship because you're too high or drunk?
Yeah, that's a tough one to navigate too.
What's that?
That's a tough one to navigate too in the beginning. I think it's easy for someone who is struggling with substances to want to play the victim and make everything someone else's fault. Well, it's my mom's fault that this happened, and it's Lucas's fault that I did this. It wasn't my fault. I deserved that drink.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that talk.
Yeah, that one's like, oh, obviously I have problems in my relationship, but it's because they won't just accept that I like to drink and use sometimes. It's just like, yeah, no, that's exactly what we're talking about. They're like, yeah, but you're hearing it the wrong way. They should be taking this test. That would definitely be one for them.
Let's see. And then number 7. This is always an interesting one for our younger guys. Important social, occupational, or recreational activities are given up or reduced because of substance use. Did they quit the football team? Are they no longer like a part of this after school club? Maybe they're an adult, like maybe they're no longer involved with, like, I don't even know what adults do, Rotary Club, or they don't do softball anymore, or whatever, like they no longer do these things. Maybe they don't go play pickleball as much. So
What
given
percentage of our younger guys would you say do that?
what's that?
What percentage of our younger guys would you say do that? If you had to just guess, put a number on it.
Are we talking Greenville transitions, guys?
Yeah.
100%.
So ages 17 to 28, like, are they giving stuff up?
100%. I would say 100% of them. And it's also interesting because a lot of our treatment is about rediscovering the things they love. So you may have a guy who like played tennis a lot, and it turns out he really loved pickleball, but he'd never even played because he hasn't played tennis in like 3 years. Or we have guys that come in and they'll tell us, and it's kind of sad because they're like, "Oh, I'm a great athlete," and then we take them over to the gym or we go play pickup basketball, and they're like falling over themselves because it's been a while since they've done that. But then it can also be really cool to see them get it back and kind of rediscover those old loves from when they were younger.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 100%. Lucas, what do you think?
I'd start at 100% and say change my mind.
Classic.
My mind could be changed. It's just like right off the rip, like, yeah, 100% sounds right.
Yeah.
Until someone gives me an exception.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Number 8, recurrent substance use in situations in which it's physically hazardous. And that includes smoking and driving. Okay, that includes that.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, man. I drive so much better when I'm high. Okay, fine. Still like illegal, and I'm going to say it's dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so concentrated when I get high and drive.
So chill and focus, dude. Okay. Yeah. That's number 8. All right. Number 9, substance use is continued despite knowledge of having a persistent or recurrent physical/psychological problem that is likely caused by or exacerbated by the substance. That is actually a fairly interesting one in therapy because a lot of times on this couch, they would rather say that I'm just anxious or I'm just depressed, but I don't have a problem with drugs or alcohol. And so then when we really start diving into it, we're like, all right, maybe it's a chicken or an egg situation. Is the drinking and doing drugs and the problems that come with that helping your anxiety or depression? And like for a while, yes, it was working for you. Kind of like what Joe Walsh said, it was working for you. And then eventually you had to start working for it and you're still very anxious and depressed. So that's always an interesting one too.
Yeah.
And then number 10 is tolerance. So needing more to achieve intoxication or not getting the same effect from using the normal amount that you would. So you're not getting as drunk off of 4 beers like you used to. And then
I want to say a little quick something about that really quick.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this until I was meeting with a guy last week who's younger. He's 16 and he's using a lot of the synthetic marijuana.
Mm.
But I think marijuana has changed drastically from 15 years ago when we were rolling up joints and smoking them. It was like maybe 25% THC back then.
Yep.
Where these days, when it became legal to start growing and selling in places like California, Colorado, it has been like put in labs where they have scientists on this stuff, and it has gone from 25% THC to damn near 100% THC, if not 100. I don't even know. But then he was describing this synthetic marijuana. He's like, I don't even want the real weed anymore. Like, I want the synthetic because it gets me higher, and it almost has properties of a painkiller to where I can feel like my fingers and my toes tingling and starting to go numb, and I start to like fade out a little bit. But he also said that how fast that ramped up compared to normal weed, to where he went from like taking one little hit of the synthetic marijuana and getting high to 3 weeks later he would have like a 6,000 puff vape of the synthetic marijuana, and it would last him 2 days. He's going ripping it 6,000 times in 2 days, which just blew my mind. And that wasn't even getting him the same high that he was getting 3 weeks ago from one hit. So, got a dangerous game coming up here in the U.S.
That's like, it's like what goes up must come down, but you can't just stay up forever. And so like hitting something 6,000 times in 2 days, it's like there's no way you're even feeling the effects of it. Like your brain has run out of chemicals to give you the effects you're looking for. You have to like go to bed and then wake up the next day, and then you can get high again. It's like at some point that just doesn't even work. And that's where it's like you're really just working for it.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I had to go on a tangent there.
No, you're good. And then the last one, number 11, is withdrawal. And so that's manifested by like, the basic normal like withdrawal symptoms of that substance. And that's always a good point to like start like educating people on what withdrawal can look like. It's typically the opposite of what the substance is supposed to like do for you. So if beer is supposed to like, and alcohol is supposed to like calm you down and make you more mellow, the withdrawal is going to be more elevated and anxious. If cocaine is supposed to like make you like feel good and like bring you up, the withdrawal is going to like be like pretty down and like tired and worn out. The other part of that is like, or you would take a substance to relieve or avoid withdrawal symptoms. A good example of this, and this
Classic
longtime client who had a really funny like joke about this, but we were talking about as his alcoholism got worse, he started having shakes in the morning. And he was getting older, he was in his 50s at this point, and he thought he was developing Parkinson's. And he's like, my hand's just shaking. He's like, so you know what I cured my Parkinson's with? A glass of scotch in the morning. Settle me right down. No problem. I cured my Parkinson. Well, we're laughing about it because we know like it was like due to the effects of coming off alcohol, and he was just shaking in the morning, and he would solve it with drinking more. So that's
I know somebody who had the same thing happen and thought, I don't know if they thought they had Parkinson's, but they thought they had some kind of like medical issue. And so they went to see their friend who was a doctor, and he just cut him straight and was like, dude, you're an alcoholic. And then the guy like stopped talking to his friend, the doctor, because he hated that diagnosis so much and was like, oh, he just doesn't get it. And he just wants it to be that I'm an alcoholic. It's just like, man, if it quacks like a duck, Yeah,
that's right. So anyway, those are the 11 that we're looking at. We're trying to help somebody like figure out what exactly is going on. And so if you had 2 to 3 of those, so if you said yes to 2 to 3 of those, you would be classified as having a mild substance use disorder. And then if you were 4 to 5, said yes to 4 to 5, it would be moderate. And then the presence of 6 or more of those symptoms, it would be severe. That's always a pretty eye-opening moment when we get to that part of the checklist.
This is really like going off the reservation, which I tend to do. But I was doing that list with somebody the other day, and they were complaining about like the nuance of it. So then I made like a gradation of like 1 to 3 for each thing. Of like 1 is like, oh, you kind of relate with it a little bit, like there's a case to be made. 2 is like pretty, more firm case, and then 3 is like, oh yeah, I definitely did that, just to kind of filter out some of that nuance stuff. And the guy still got the answer at the end of it, that he was like adjusted for like a 7 or an 8. I think it might have actually gone up from when he just did it as like a binary, like you either relate to this or you don't relate to it.
Yeah, and I don't know if I like some of it is just jaded from years of doing this, but to me, like if we're sitting in my office doing this checklist, like there's a good chance that there's just a problem.
I don't think you know what you're talking about, Cole. It's just an accident.
Do you always do them in person?
They were looking for the deli, dude. They didn't mean to wander into your office.
It's an accident. How did I get here?
They just want a ham and cheese sandwich. They don't know how they got there. Now you're reading off the DSM-5 to them. It's crazy.
Do you always do that in person?
Usually in person, yeah.
Yeah. Does body language ever mean anything to you? Like, are you ever looking for body language signs when someone's sitting down with you
Mm,
as you're going through?
yeah, I mean, I mean, I call it more like just vibes, like the tone of voice, body language, eye contact, just what is this like energy in the
What's your
conversation.
vibe, bro?
Right, bro. That's a very Dave way of doing it. Yeah, usually in person, but also I won't just jump right into that. Try to build a little bit of rapport at first. So
Yeah.
this person doesn't immediately just feel like judged on this list, and I'll try my best to make it very collaborative. Like, hey, would you like to look at this together just so you can get a better understanding? Because ultimately that's the point. Like, I probably already have a decent idea of what I think's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the point. The point is that they get a good understanding of what's going on with them. Because I'm not going to always be there. Like, if they walk out of my office and like, I don't have a problem, then they're going to go about their business, Like, my point is to try to help them see whatever the real issues are so they can start working on that, no matter where they go after here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was a guy that did that test with one of our therapists, and I remember he came down and he looked all like kind of like sunken and sullied, and was like, "Ah, man, what's going on?" He's like, "Dude, I just did this test. It turns out I'm an alcoholic." It's like, yeah, man. You didn't get the hint of like that's why you're here, and like the intensive sober living program specifically for your demographic, paired with like intense clinical treatment. Like we kind of figured, I'm glad we did the test and now. But I mean, it was cool to your point of like that he had accepted that of like,
Yes.
he had taken the authority of that test to heart. Because I know some people that are like that I've seen take that test and they're like, what does that test know anyways? And who even makes that thing? They don't know my life. They don't know me, and will kind of disqualify it. But some people just completely take it and they're like, man, now the test said it. The test said it. I was 11 for 11. I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So we have.
Hey,
So
can we pause here real quick? Adam's Bistro just called me. Can we like pause it and then pick it back up, or do you just keep rolling and filter this out?
yeah, we can pause it. Started back up.
So yeah, so that's the substance use checklist according to the DSM-5. Crazy stuff, right, guys?
Well, I want to talk about something with this checklist that's funny to me. A lot of the guys that we work with, a lot of the women that we work with, no matter the age, I would say most of them are forced into getting help. It's like a husband that's saying you need to get help, a wife, a mom and dad, but someone's forcing them in. And most of the time, they would tell you they don't have a problem. Would you agree?
Yes.
However,
Yes.
this is what is fascinating to me is when it comes time to do the pre-admission screening and running through the questions of like, how much of a problem is this for you? How much of this substance were you taking on a daily basis? I mean, it seems like especially the younger population just ramps those answers up of like, yeah, I definitely have a problem. Oh yeah, I was drinking like 2 handles a day. Like really getting into the nitty gritty, making it sound really bad. And I've always wondered about that because it's like, just a week ago when we were talking to your mom, this was not a problem.
Lucas, I feel like you got a zinger about this. Serve up a heater, dude. Let's see what you got.
I don't know that I have a zinger or a heater, but I've definitely noticed that trend a lot. And I find that it like goes back and forth between like, well, now that I'm here in sober living and I had to do this, now I kind of want to be like the baddest addict alcoholic here. And there can get into that kind of like one-upping, war storying type stuff of like, oh, you drank 2 handles, I drank 3 handles. And like everything is like amped up and exaggerated. But again, what's fascinating to me, to David's point, well, more than that is like the back and forth. So not just before I don't have a problem, then the pre-admission, oh no, I have like the worst problem ever. But then watching that just go back and forth like a ping pong match for the next 6 months of just like conveniently in this conversation, this is all a mistake. I shouldn't be here. It's all overblown. and then overhear them talking in the van with someone else, and it's like, dude, who did I not sell weed to? I sold weed to Barack Obama, and you're just like, man, you did not sell weed to Barack Obama. But I mean, it's just like these like crazy tales that you're like, I thought you were just telling me yesterday that you don't have a problem. It's like, oh no, I mean, I don't. And I'm just saying, actually, oh no, I knew a guy who sold pot to Barack Obama, to where it's just like this kind of crazy back and forth for like whatever fits in the moment.
Yeah. Well, and what that is, in my eyes, so I'm going back to my own experience here, is anytime I would try to go back to like, well, it's not a problem, that's when I was starting to experience discomfort in treatment. And I wanted what I knew as my fix. What I knew brought David comfort in my earlier days of sobriety was going back to drugs and alcohol. And so that's when I would go back to the staff of the treatment center, to my therapist, and say, well, no, I don't really have a problem. It's not that bad. So you should let me out of here and let me get high again. That's what I was really trying to say, but disguising it with I'm not like the rest of these guys.
Yeah, I find that the I don't have a problem is always paired with, and that's why I should be able to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's why my parents should get me an apartment and let me go do this thing on my own. And then I have the worst problem ever is in moments of more like acceptance of like, well, I'm here, so I might as well be the coolest, baddest guy here.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I can relate to from personal experience too.
Yeah.
Like telling tall tales in treatment and just wanting to be, that like something that I would be less than if somebody was like more of an addict or alcoholic than me, then this insecurity kicking up. So, all right, I got to make up a story to kind of one up this person or fit in. I guess really that, like just like a fear of fitting in. And that if people did more drugs or alcohol than me, then I won't be able to fit in with them.
I think it's definitely it's shining up the armor that you wear. You know what I mean? Like if identifying or drinking and using was how you like felt connected or felt better about yourself, then you're going to shine that up to really be like, hey, look at what a badass I was. Like, and I think it's interesting too, the timing of where you're talking about it. Like when you're doing a pre-admission with somebody, you're not really challenging them. You're just bringing it. You're like, hey, show me who you are. Well, I'll show you who I am. Like I would drink like 3 handles, a day. I would smoke like, I don't know, a pound of weed a day. I'll show you who I am. Let me show you like this armor that I wear. And we're doing this all subconsciously. But then the reason why, like I said like, I think people often say they don't have a problem, when you ask that question, because typically in the conversations that I'm having with them or Lucas is having with them, we are saying, hey, here's the solution. And it's hard ass work. It is completely different from anything you've done before. And it's going to require a lot of resiliency, like a lot of courage, and it's going to scare you. And so then they're like, wait, I don't know about that. I don't know if I want that solution.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to like take this armor off. So I think that's why I think you're exactly right, Lucas. Like it's, fear of not fitting in, but it's also just scary in general when you actually have to confront the hard work that a person has to do,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's another big issue today is that it's hard work and that a lot of people don't want to do that. And I think it's hard to find the fine line of like, where's meeting someone where they're at versus getting them the help that they need. And I see it happen all the time where we can go too far the other direction of like, oh, you don't want treatment. Like, what about just an outpatient program? What if you just went to therapy groups 3 times a week? You don't want to do that either. Like, what if you just met with a therapist 1 day a week? Oh, I know that sounds tough too. Like, what if you just chatted with Chat GPT about recovery once a week for 30 minutes? Like, would that be okay for you? And it almost seems like this, I'm going to put something on blast here, but that like soft new form of parenting that's, your kids throwing a tantrum in Target and you're laying down on the ground with them, talking about their big feelings and what you can do to protect their big feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, sometimes life is just hard. Sometimes shit is tough and we've got to figure out a way to work through it. And that's also where you experience the biggest wins Like you're going to feel the best about yourself as a human being when you go through something hard and you get to the other side of it. So I don't know. It's tough to figure out where to meet someone and where to push someone to get them to do the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
It's called gentle parenting, Dave.
Gentle parenting. There we go. Sorry. I just latched on to another thing there in your tangent. I feel like we should just start calling these our side quest. Like Lucas's side quest, David's side quest.
Lots of side quests, not interested in the main story.
Yeah. Don't even know what the main story is.
I'm just
Oh,
roaming.
sure.
What is the main story?
Who knows?
I think that's a very, I mean, I think you have like a good point with that. I don't know. It's interesting because like you want to provide like structure and boundaries with someone and not let them just go off every like whim and fancy they have. But so much of the problem comes from like emotional suppression. You know, like I don't want to feel scared or insecure, so I'm going to like smoke or drink or whatever this way. And so getting people like okay with having the big feelings and then still doing the action that's aligned with their values and who they are, like it's a very delicate balance, you know, and it's really easy to like go way too far one way or the other, which is why I think you need like a team of people. I think we always need like a team of people around us helping us. Like we need those that are going to give us more tough love. Or we need those who are going to be able to really empathize with us. Because I think we need both of those, you know, and it's just really hard. I mean, parenting is very brutal because you're kind of trying to provide both of those for a kid. That's why it's good to have like, if you have it, like another parent, like helping you out with that, or grandparents or whatever. So it takes, what do they say? It takes a village.
Yeah.
Takes
I mean,
a
Village.
I have an analogy that I like for that though, real quick, that is often like what I tell guys. And I'll say that like, you know, so like I find you and you've been driving the bus and you drove it into a ditch. It's like crashed, it's mangled, it needs to be pulled out. And you're drunk. Okay. And so I pull you out of the ditch. You know, we get a tow truck, whatever, get it back on the road, get it fixed up. It's ready to roll. You're still drunk though. So like, I'm going to drive the bus for a while. And then for a while, you know, just sit in the back of the bus and just kind of relax and get your feet back under you. And then eventually like come up to the front of the bus and kind of watch me drive. And I'll show you kind of how it's working. And then we'll talk more about like what direction we're headed with the bus. And if you like that, and, you know, if it seems like things are going better. And then eventually I'm going to have to trade out spots with you and like, you're going to have to drive the bus, you know, but just like, let us drive it for a little bit just to get going in a better direction. Because last time you were driving the bus, it crashed into a ditch and it didn't go so well. And I hate to like use that. Like you don't mean to like kind of talk down to people of like, you know, it's because it's not, you can never drive a bus again. You know, it's just like, hey, for now, like, just let me help you out. And to your point of like, when it comes time to make decisions, you've been taking like the easiest way out at every turn. And so if it's go to a meeting, well, it's going to be uncomfortable. I won't know people there, so I don't want to go. So I don't go. And if it's getting a sponsor or a mentor, I don't really want to do that either. And then, you know, when the tough thing happens of like, I'm having some difficult emotions to deal with, I'd rather go get high or drunk about it. It's really no surprise that the person goes to get high or drunk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like that is the easier way. And so it's building up that resiliency of like doing the tougher thing. And I think when we're working with, you know, specifically like younger guys, but it applies for anyone, it's like, yeah, I know you don't want to go to the gym today, but we're going to go anyways. I know you don't want to go to group, but we're going to go anyways. I know you don't want to talk about this thing that you've been putting off and say, I'm not talking about it, but eventually we got to talk about it, you know? And so you just kind of push them through these hard times. But I find that guys are like, and girls are, they're appreciative of it on the other end of like, oh, I really needed that, you know, but it doesn't always feel good when you're the one pushing them, because you are trying to find that balance of like, let me meet them where they're at, and not just be Yeah, I don't know, this person that's like just calling all the shots for their life, because at some point they have to call the shots.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
Can I add to your analogy? I can't
Yeah.
help myself. I don't know if you noticed, but therapists, we love a metaphor. We love it.
Bus driver.
Dude, I like this makes so much sense in my brain. All right. So when we're born, we're all given a car, right? And we'll say that's like our body. We're all given a car. We didn't choose the car. This is the car that we were given. Most of the world is given automatic transmissions. Most of the world has the automatic transmission. And it's so much so that everybody expects everyone to be born with the automatic transmission. But there are some manual transmission people out there, but they don't know it. They don't know it. And maybe you can kind of see signs of it and stuff as they're going along. But when they start driving on their own, they're trying to drive a manual transmission like an automatic. And they are stalling out. They're ending up in the ditch. Their engine is blowing up. It's a whole thing. And they need somebody who's like, knows how to drive a manual transmission, which very often are like very special people, you know, whether it's like therapists, sponsors, friends. Sometimes it's a parent who also has a manual transmission and can come in and say like, hey, this is how we need to do it. Like, we're sorry. Like we thought everybody had an automatic transmission. You just never know. You just don't really know until you know. And so then that's why you have to have somebody sitting there beside you, teaching you or showing you how to do it. And then you learn how to like proceed from there. What do you guys think? Manual, automatic transmissions? Are we on something?
I love it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. That made a lot of sense in my brain.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I think you should start using that in more of your sessions.
I'm going to give you credit, Lucas, because you were the inspiration of that with the bus in the ditch. I have talked about it with clients before of like I would say like my if we're in metaphorical car is like a Honda Civic, which I'm very familiar with.
Classic Cole.
That thing, dude, you can like forget oil changes, you know, it will just putter along, like providing just like optimal to suboptimal performance for 500,000 miles. I would just put now, if I'm not taking care of it, it's not going to blow up. It's not going to end up like stranding me on the side of the road, but I would just putter along, getting worse gas mileage, having little issues here and there, and it would just slowly deteriorate. Like I would say that's like kind of what my car is like. It's an automatic, but if I'm not taking care of it, like it's going to definitely like decline over time. I would say that you two have like manual like Audis, okay? Like if you don't know how to drive that thing, that shit blowing up out here on the road pretty quick. You know what I mean? Like,
bro, I feel like I'm in a go-kart, a manual go-kart.
something a little more like fragile. Like it'll blow up. But if it's hitting right and you know how to drive it, crazy performance, right?
Yeah.
Like crazy like experience. It's like really like in the best way.
That's Lucas. Lucas is in the manual Audi. He's sharp, witty with it. I'm in a go-kart, dude.
Wow.
Just friggin' hitting side rails, going from side rail to side rail.
We'll give you. How about an F1 car, Dave? An F1 car. How about that? I'm really in F1 racing right now. Maybe you guys are in. There you go. There you go.
You know, Tony Soprano said something about this too.
Oh, did he?
Yep. This is going to sound stupid,
We always
but
find our way back to the Sopranos.
you got to. It's a central point of my life. This is going to sound stupid, but I saw at one point that our mothers are bus drivers. No, they are the bus. See, they're the vehicle that gets us here. They drop us off and go on their way. They continue on their journey. And the problem is that we keep trying to get back on the bus instead of just letting it go.
That's a season 1 slammer right there.
That's a season 6 slammer, David. Pretend you've seen the show before.
I thought that was season 1.
No.
I haven't even got to season 6. So
yeah, that's season 6. I just saw that like a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to throw one out there of what this reminds me of, like it being tough to get sober, because to date is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like looking back, it's harder than school. It's harder than the jobs that I've worked. It's harder than like training for a half marathon. But to me, it's like boot camp, like military boot camp, where you have to do 1,000 sit-ups and 1,000 push-ups every day. You've got, I mean, who signs up to do that? You know, it takes a special somebody, probably people who are like, this is my best option. So I'm going to go to this military. I'm going to go do this boot camp where like it's a lot of people's best option to go get sober and change their life and go down a different path. But it's going to be really hard. There are going to be mental push-ups, mental sit-ups, mental mile markers that you have to hit in order to experience like the joy, the peace, the freedom that comes on the other end. Not that you can't experience some of it early on, but the majority of it's going to be the boot camp. And you have to make a decision every day to do those mental push-ups, sit-ups, mile markers, and push through to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that just so many people aren't prepared for that. As they probably aren't. I don't know what it's like to, and please, military people, don't come at me saying that I don't know what it takes. But I would imagine, I think it would be a okay comparison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
David McNeese, anti-military.
I got a question for y'all. All right. Would you say recovery, is it more A, physical, B, mental, or C, mystery answer? Which one do you guys think? A, B, or C?
Let's see.
A mystery answer?
Yeah.
I'm going B.
Mental.
It's C, and C is both A and B.
It's actually,
I decide what the mystery answer is. It's C. C is
okay.
both A and B.
So I was listening to some. The answer is, I think, based on like just where my head's at today, that it's C, is nervous system. And so where I'm like coming at this from is I was listening to something over the weekend that Andrew Huberman was talking about on one of his podcasts about building endurance. Like, how do we build endurance? My endurance is like notoriously never like super strong, and I'm like, I really would like to know like how to build more endurance for like mountain biking or Muay Thai or whatever, right? And he was talking about it from, people will say like endurance is like 90% physical, 10% mental, or it's 90% mental, 10% physical. And he was like, really, both of those are wrong. It's really 100% nervous system. Like you are training your cells on this like tiny level that you know how to like push through a 30-minute run. So it's like the training of it is causing different neurochemicals to go on, and you're also learning to regulate into hard times. Like, think about it. So many times, like, we'll be holding a plank, and our brain, the mental part of it will start saying like, we can't. But if you have like trained like on a very like minute cellular level, and you learn how to regulate, like how to calm your body, how to disconnect, which you could say is maybe mental, but it's almost both, because you're like learning to like that certain neurochemicals, which is a physical thing, are going to start like flowing or not flowing in those moments of hard time. And also like deep down, literally in your bones, like in your cells, that you can hold a plank for longer than a minute. So it's very interesting, like how much of it's like regulation. And we talk a lot about that with our guys, but I think that's like such a big part of like the recovery experience, just from watching people go through it. It's like, how do you regulate in hard times? I don't know, I thought it was really interesting. So I would say C, mystery answer, which is really a combination of A and B.
Got it. Well,
Good job.
got it. Well, it's got to be because like if I weigh 400 pounds and I've never run before, I'm not going to be able to run for 3 miles. So it's not just mental. I can't just push through it mentally. But I could also be in like pretty good shape and have not run before and still not be able to do it. So
Mhm.
it's not just physical. And
Yeah.
I think it really is this like combination of both. And there's a guy that I know from 12 step that I like and respect a lot. And he always says, move a muscle, change a thought. That's
This guy in your, is this guy in your home group?
maybe.
I
And
love
so-
it. Tell stories. Yes. That's
And
good.
so I just think that's so apt that it's like I can't just like will my mind into thinking differently. I have to go like do actions to do that. And by moving that muscle, I can change a thought. I can't get through a hard time, but it's really both.
Mhm.
But I also can't just like dissociate, shut it down, and then just go run for 10 miles. Like that thought's not going to pop back up,
Right.
you know? So it's like, yeah, I just really think it's both.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta run and go get the food.
All right. Well, that's it. That's a wrap. That's the end of the side quests.
Into the side quest. That's it.
That's a wrap.